Hello everyone. In this video, I'll be installing the compiler and the development toolchain that we're going to use on the Mac to develop C++ programs. Now there's a couple of things that can go on here. We can install them from scratch, which is what I'm going to do here. They may be already installed on your system, in which case you're going to get a message saying that they're already installed. And I'll walk you through both those scenarios. So what I want to do here is I want to open up a terminal session. So you can just press Command Spacebar and type in terminal. And that'll open up a terminal shell. And I'm just going to hit Command plus a few times just to make it a little bigger, so make it easier to see. All right, so at this point, we're going to type in sudo, that's sudo, followed by a space, and then xcode -select space again, and then -- install. So again, sudo space xcode -select space -- install. And I'll press enter. And it's going to ask you for your password, so just type in your password. Let me try that again. All right, so now if the tools have not been installed, you're going to get a pop-up like this that says, we're going to install the tools. And that's exactly what I want to do. I'm going to click install. If the tools are already installed, then you're going to get a message in the terminal saying that they're already installed. Nothing, you don't need to do anything. Just consider the tools installed and move on to the next video. So I'm going to select install. I'm going to scroll through my license agreement and agree to it. And I was just going to go off and install the software. This process could take a couple of minutes. It could take a lot longer. It really depends on your computer as well as your internet connection. So I'm going to pause the video here and I'll come back as soon as it's done. Okay, so we're done. The process took just over 10 minutes on my machine, just so you have an idea of how long it can take. Again, it might take longer or it might be a lot faster, depending on a lot of things. So we're done. I'm going to click done. Now I'm going to close this window and I'm going to open it again just so we get a fresh one. Again, I'm going to press Command Space and then I'm going to type terminal and make this thing a little bit bigger. And now I want to type G++ space -- version. And when I press enter, I get the information about the compiler that we'll be using, which is this guy right here. If you went through the installation just like I did, this should pop up. If you started the installation and it said that the command line tools were already installed, when you type G++ -- version, you should get something very similar. Obviously, the versions are going to be different depending on when you install this and what the latest version and so forth is. But if we're at this point, we've got our compiler installed and we're good to go. In the next video, we'll install CodeLite on Mac, and then we'll be good to go to start coding. I'll see you in the next video. Hello everyone, in this video we'll install CodeLite for Mac. The installation of CodeLite on Mac has recently been changed to use Brew, so that's what we're going to use. It's command line driven. I wish it was just a double click install, but a lot of times, most of the time, the developer tools that developers use are installed via the command line. Might as well get used to it, and it's not so bad. I'll walk you right through it. So let's get started. So open up your favorite browser and head over to codelite.org. And then once we're there, we want to select the downloads link and then click latest. That's the latest version. And scroll to the Mac OS section. Now you'll notice that we're installing it using Brew. So if you don't have Brew installed on your system, this is how you install it. You would click on the Brew link and that will take you to the Homebrew homepage. Now on there, you'll see right around in the middle there, you can see where it says install Homebrew. Click that little icon and that will copy that URL to your clipboard. And then you can just press Command Space and open up Terminal just like we've done before. I'll make it a little bit bigger so you can see. And then you just want to paste that in there. You can use Command V. All right, now we've got that URL paste in there and we just execute it and that will install Brew on your system. It'll ask you for your password and it'll just take a few minutes. It's pretty quick. Press Return or Enter to continue. And let it do its thing. And once it's finished, we want to do one more step and the instructions will be right in the script there. You can see where it says next steps. And I'm going to copy and paste that command that they're giving us right there. So I'm pressing Command C, then I'm pressing Command V to paste it, clicking on the end and just pressing enter and that's it. Brew is installed now, and now we can use Brew to continue the installation of CodeLite on Mac. So I'm going to close this terminal and open a new one. It's always a good idea whenever you modify any of the terminal settings to open up a new one. So let's talk about the next step. I'm back to the web page here, and we basically have to run a few commands. And let me make a little room here so we can run them side by side. I'm going to open up the terminal again. I'll make it a little bit bigger so we can see it better. And then what we'll do is we'll paste each one of those 4 commands that are in that white box on the web page over into the terminal. So the first one is brew tap arnf/CodeLite. The second is the brew update. And the third one is brew reinstall --cask CodeLite official. And you could just copy them with Command C and then paste them with Control V. That's what I'm doing. This is the one that's actually installing CodeLite. And again, everything takes a little bit of time when we're working from the command line. Then once CodeLite is installed, we execute that last command, which is xattr and so forth. And again, just copy and paste it. And then we're done. At that point, CodeLite will be installed. It's possible that when you typed in the brew update command, the second command, it might give you a message about something about GitHub or other. And it's giving you an alternate command. Use that alternate command if you get that. That one takes quite a while to execute. And then after that, just continue with the installation. Okay, so as you can see, there's a whole bunch of packages and dependencies that are being installed. And then once that's done, one more command and we're good to go. All right, that's it. I sped up the video just to save a little time. And now we do the last command. And at that point, we have completely installed CodeLite and we should be good to go. In the next video, we'll configure CodeLite so that it'll work with the compiler and we'll be ready to code. I'll see you in the next video. Hello, everyone. In this video, we're going to configure CodeLite to work with the compiler that we've already installed. So at this point, we've installed the compiler and we've installed CodeLite. The first time you run CodeLite, you're going to get a welcome message like this. And this is basically a setup wizard. If you don't get this the first time you run CodeLite, you can just come up to help and select run the setup wizard right there. Okay, but I did get the setup wizard. Also, you might get the light mode or you may get the dark mode. It really depends on how you've got your Mac set up. So what we want to do is we do want to run this setup wizard. So once it comes up, we want to click next. We want to select C development, select next again. And now we're going to ask CodeLite to scan our system for installed compilers. Since we've already installed a compiler, it should find one. So I'll select scan. And you can see it found a bunch of stuff. The most important one is the GCC. That's the one we're going to use. If you see a GCC there, you're good to go. So I'm going to select next. Then what theme do I want to use? You can use a light theme or a dark theme. I'm just going to stick to the dark theme because the light theme, although it comes off better on video, is giving me some really weird glitchy stuff with the recording that just doesn't look good. So I'm going to select next. Don't make any changes here and click finish. Now CodeLite is going to stop and restart. And once you're opened up, we're good to go. Now down here, you can see where it says local workspaces. There aren't any yet. Once we start creating workspaces, they will show up here and you can easily go back to previously used workspaces by just clicking on them. The idea here is we want to create a workspace, and then within that workspace, we want to create projects. Each project would be a working C++ program. So the first step is to create a workspace. Now there's several ways to do it. You can see the workspace view over here. We can select new, create workspace, this big button right here. We can go to workspace, new workspace, and I believe we can go to file, new workspace as well. So there's a lot of places we could do it. I'm just going to click this big button right here. Now, what is the workspace type? Well, we're going to stick to C++. That's what we'll be using. So I'm going to select C++ and click OK. Now it's going to ask me where I want to store these workspaces and what I want to name them. So you've got some choices here. You can put them in your documents. You can put them on your desktop. I'm going to create a path right off of my home directory, and I'm going to call it workspaces. And then I'm going to create as many workspaces as I want within that area. That way I'm nicely organized. So I'm just going to click this button over here with the 3 dots. And right here, I'm going to create a new folder. And I'm going to call it workspaces. Let me make that a capital W. Workspaces. That's it. I'll create it. And I'll select it. And you can see now that the workspace path is going to be my home folder, workspaces. And the workspace name for the workspace that I'm going to create now is going to be called Workspace 1. That can be anything. That could be Section 5. That could be pointers if you're working on pointers. Anything that makes sense for you. Make sure that Create the Workspace under a separate directory is checked and click OK. Now you can see over here in the Workspace view, you have a workspace created called Workspace 1. Now, that's not real useful until we create projects, and that's the next step. Let's create some projects within it. So we'll start with creating one project. So I'm going to right-click on there and select New Project. Again, you can go up to File, New Project. A lot of different ways to do it, but let's just right-click on the workspace and create a new project. Okay, so now we've got our new project wizard. You can see that this project is going to go into Workspace 1, which is the workspace we have open. And what do you want to name your project? You can name it anything you want. I'm going to name it Project 1. Now, something that's really, really important throughout. Do not use any spaces anywhere. Do not use any special characters like pluses and dots and $signs and all kinds of weird things. And do not use any international characters. So just keep it really plain, simple, no spaces, no international characters, no special characters. Once we do that, we want to check on create the project in own folder. Then what category, console, we're going to run these programs in a terminal window. The type is going to be simple executable G++. So again, simple executable G++. The compiler we're going to use is the GCC compiler. You may have other choices here, but just select GCC. The debugger is going to be the LLDB VS Code debugger. That's the one on Mac. And the build system is CodeLite Makefile Generator. And again, you've got some choices here, 2 choices. We're going to use that one. In version 17.3, which is the version that I'm running now of CodeLite, the developer removed the default build system. Unfortunately, that makes it a little tougher for us to configure this. The default build system worked great. I really don't know why he removed it, but he did, so we'll deal with it. At this point, we're going to click OK. And you can see in the workspace, Project 1 has been created. There is a source folder for our source code, and there is our main.cpp file. So if I double click on that, you can see the source code right there. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go over to my settings, colors and fonts. And I'm going to set the font to something around 20 or so, so you guys can see. Let's see 24. So I'll click OK. And then I'll click Apply and then OK. There we go. So that font's a little bit easier to see now on video. So what are we going to do? We're going to remove all this and we're going to write a real simple program. Now notice that when I did that, this little red dot showed up. What that means is that whatever is in here in my editor has not been saved. So this is a good clue for you to make sure you save everything. So let's write the program and then we'll worry about saving it. So at this point, just type along and follow along. The point of this video is to make sure that our development environment is set up. It's not about learning C++ yet. We'll have plenty of time to do that. All this will be explained. So pound include, we have a left angle bracket or a less than sign, IOStream, and the right angle bracket. And we're going to say using namespace space std with a semicolon at the end. Make sure you have spaces between using, namespace, and std. Now we're going to write the main function. So we're going to type int space main, left paren, right paren, and then a left curly brace. And in here, we're just going to say cout 2 left angle brackets, side by side, no spaces between them. And I'm going to say, hello world. That's what I'm going to display. Make sure that that hello world is within double quotes, the whole thing. Then we have 2 left angle brackets and ENDL for an end line. Make sure that that's ENDL and not END1. And then we're going to return 0. With a semicolon at the end, make sure there's a space between the return and the 0. That's it. Now you can see that that red dot is there. So I'm going to save this and I'm going to press Command S. You can also come up to File, Save File, but I'm just going to press Command S and that little red dot is gone. Before we build this, we need to configure our compiler to work with this project the way we want. The way we can do that is, you'll notice that project 1 right there is bold and italicized. That tells CodeLite and us that this project is the active project. Remember, we could have many projects in here. The active project is the one that's going to be built and run. So it's really important that we select the one we want. In this case, there's only one, so it's pretty easy. So I want to select the project, and then I'm going to come up here and click that wrench icon. I can also right-click on the project and come down here to Settings. Same thing. So I'm just going to click that wrench icon, and we get our project settings. Now, most of this we're not going to mess with. We're just going to leave it alone. Most of this has been set up for us already. There's one thing that we definitely have to do is this working directory right here. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to delete what's in there, and I'm just going to type $ left paren and the word project path with no spaces, and both P's are uppercase. Then I'm going to press Tab. So $ left paren, project path, right paren, and the 2 P's in project path uppercase. That's it. Now we'll go over to the compiler, select it on the left, and right where it says C++ compiler options, I'm just going to click on there, and this little button with 3 dots shows up. I want to click that, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to select Enable C++ 17 features right there. That's going to use the C++ 17 version of the C++ compiler. I'll select OK. At this point, we're done. I'll select OK. And now I'm going to come over here and build this project. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to select Build and rebuild the project. When I do that, an output pane comes up down here and you get the build. Notice that the C++ 17 shows up over here and so forth. So this is a good build. It says build completed successfully, no errors, no warnings. Our program has been built. So now we have an executable that we can run. When we run that executable, we expect it to say hello world, right? And that's what we wrote. Great. So I'm going to close this and I'm going to come up to build and now I'm going to run. Do we want to build it again and execute? No, I've already built it. I just want to execute it. And we get a terminal up here and you notice it says hello world right there. Right there. So we've got a good build. We've got a good run. And then it says hit any key to continue. You can hit the key and get used to closing this window like that by clicking on that little red dot up there. So that's it. We've got a program. It's running. It's pretty easy to do. We can create another project. So why don't we do that? Let's do that. I'm going to click the workspace again. Right click. New project. I'm going to put it in the same workspace, but I want to call this one Project 2. Again, you can name these anything you want. Just be sure that there are no spaces, no international characters, and no special characters. I know I say that a lot, but there's so many support questions, and when things don't work, it's almost always there's a $sign somewhere, there's a dot somewhere, there's a % sign somewhere, there's a space somewhere. So be sure you don't have any of that. So again, make sure to create the project in its own folder. We've got console, simple executable G++, GCC, LLDB, VS Code, CodeLite, Makefile Generator. So it remembered the previous settings. I'll select OK. We'll go over to the project and we'll select the wrench. We'll come over here to General and in the working directory, we'll delete what's there. And we'll replace it with $ open paren, project path, close the paren, just like that. Then we'll come over to compiler. We'll select the compiler options, the C++ compiler options right there. Click that little button, select enable C++ 17 features, select OK, apply these settings and hit OK, and we're done. Now we can write our code for the project 2. So in this case, you'll notice this is the code for project 1. And you can tell up here where it says project 1. If we select this code, now project 2 opens up, and that's the main CPP file. So what I'd like to do is I want to reuse this code here. So I'm going to just copy it. I'm doing Command A and then Command C to copy. And I'm just going to come in here and paste it with Command V. So I'm just going to say hello world from project 2. That's it. I'm going to save because it was unsaved before. If I build now, it's going to build project 1 because you can see project 1 right here is italicized. Project 1 is the active project. So we can make project 2 the active project by right-clicking and saying make active, or we could also just double-click on it. Now you can see project 2 is italicized and bold, and it's good to go. So now I can build, and I can build my project or rebuild my project. I'll go into more of the differences between those in the class. We have a clean build. I come up to build and run, execute, and at this point we should see hello from project 2. That's exactly what we see. And you can make this window bigger by just hitting Command plus if you like. You can see a little bit better. Hit any key to continue. We're done, and we'll close this window up. That's it. We're pretty much done with this. A couple of videos down, refer to the video that shows us how to make a default project template, because that'll save us some time from having to do all this stuff over and over and over again. What we can do is we can create a default project template and then create new projects from it, and all our settings will be there already. So the last thing I'd like you to do is to come up to CodeLite, Preferences, and go over here to Miscellaneous. And there's a setting right here. Check for new version on startup. Uncheck that. My advice would be, once you have a working CodeLite setup and compiler setup, don't mess with it. Use it throughout the course. Many times as developers, we want, I want the latest and greatest. That's usually a really bad idea. The latest and greatest is usually on the bleeding edge. It's buggy and there's all kinds of issues. So once you have a working development environment, leave it alone. Don't mess with it. So just uncheck that, and this thing won't keep prompting you and pestering you to update to the latest and greatest, which may not be. So I'm going to apply, click OK. And at that point, we're done. We're almost ready to start coding. Refer to the section about creating the default template, and I'll see you in the next video. In this section, we'll look at how we can create, build, and execute C++ programs using only a simple editor and the command line. All we need on our system is a simple text editor. It's important to note that word processors such as Microsoft Word and Apple Pages are not usually used to enter program code. Instead, we use basic text editors or programmer text editors. These types of editors are much simpler than integrated development environments. We also need an installed C++ compiler like GCC or MinGW on Windows and Apple's command line compilers on Mac. That's it. At this point, we can create the C++ program using the text editor and compile and run it by typing commands into the command line. This may sound intimidating at first, but it's actually quite easy and efficient. That said, this is a workflow that's more commonly seen with experienced developers. However, you may wish to consider this approach if you find the IDEs too complex or too difficult to understand. You might also consider this approach if your computer hardware resources are insufficient to run an IDE. In any case, this is another option that you may use. In the next several videos, I'll show you how to edit, build, and execute C++ programs using only the command line and a simple editor. There will be separate videos for Windows, Macs, and Ubuntu Linux for your reference. Hello everyone. In this video, I'll be installing the C++ compiler along with the build tools that we'll need to build C++ programs on Linux. The distribution that I'm using is Ubuntu 22.04, which is jammy. There are a lot of different Linux distributions out there, so depending on which one you're on, you can check out the different options here for Ubuntu, Fedora, and so forth. As I said, I'm on Ubuntu. So open up your favorite browser and head over to codelite.org. And then once you get there, select Docs and Getting Started. And then right where it says Prepare Your Environment, select Linux. And there's basically one command we're going to run, which is pretty straightforward. Once you get to the Linux section, there's a lot of information here, right? Depending on, whether you want to install Rust and Python and Brew and so forth. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to install the essentials, which gives us everything we need. And you can see this box right here that says install the essentials. So what you can do is hover over this box and click that little icon right there. That's going to copy this information to the clipboard. And that's what we're going to execute in a terminal now. I'm done with this for now. I'm just going to minimize it. I'm going to open up a terminal. All right, so there's my terminal. Now, at this point, all I really want to do is paste what I just copied into the terminal and execute it. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to right-click right here, paste, click the right arrow key, and press enter. It's going to ask you for your password. And that's it. Some of these tools might already be installed depending on the type of distribution you installed originally. So it says, do you want to continue? Yes, I do want to continue. And there it goes. It's going to do its thing when it's finished. And again, how long it takes really depends on what's already on your system. So it may take a little bit longer. I've already got most of this stuff on my system, so we're good. Let me clear the screen. So if you type G++ -- version, you should get some information about your compiler. This is G++, which is the GNU C compiler. And the installed version is 11.3. The version you have installed might be different, might be 11.4, 12.0, 10. Whatever it is, that's fine. They're all going to support C++ 17, unless you've got a really, really old distribution, which is very unlikely. All right, so the next step is to install CodeLite. And then once we install CodeLite, we can configure CodeLite to work with the compiler we just installed, and we should be good to go. So head over to CodeLite.org again, and in the docs section, you'll see this downloads link right here. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to click latest. I've got the information here how to install for Mac, Windows, Linux, and this is the one we're interested in right here, the Ubuntu area. Now, it's all going to be terminal driven, so I'm going to make some room here for my terminal. And really what I want to is have access to these, so I can copy and paste them. Okay, so let me open the terminal again. And I'm going to move the terminal just over here, just so we can get it just slightly out of the way. Perfect. All right, so what we're going to do is we're just going to go through this and basically copy these commands into the terminal and execute them. So the first thing we need to do is we need to set the public key. So again, I'm going to click on this little icon right here, then come over to my terminal, paste, press the right arrow just to make sure that that's unhighlighted, and press enter. It's going to ask you for your password again. Notice the warning that it's deprecated. Don't worry about it. That's a normal warning. All right, we're done with that. Then I'm going to come down here. And depending on which distribution you have, and again, there's a lot of Linux distributions out there. I'm using Jammy, which is 22.04. If you're using these other releases, you can use these lines here. So basically what I'm doing is I'm going to execute this command because it's already my Jammy command right here. But if you've got one of these, you can just replace this part with whatever distribution you have, whether it's Bullseye or Kinetic or whatever else you have. So I'm just going to copy this. If you're a Linux user, you probably know exactly what you're doing. So let me right click on here and paste it. Press the right arrow again, press enter. And it'll just be a second. Okay, I'm done. I'm going to clear this terminal just to make a little room here. All right, so I'm going to scroll up here, just a couple of more commands to run. I'm just going to type these in. The first one is sudo apt update. Sudo apt update. Press enter. Okay, that's done. I'll clear it once more. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to install the latest version, which we know is 17. Don't do this right here for now. Just come right down here and type this one right here. So I'll click the icon and paste it just to make it easier. Okay, clear it once more. And now here we're going to execute this command, except we're going to use the 17 instead of the 14 because we know that that's the latest. So let me paste that. And I'm going to just change that 4 to a 7, just like that, 17.0 star. And that will install CodeLite and all the other dependencies that it might have. So this one might take a little while, but once we're done, we've got CodeLite installed. And the next step is to actually run CodeLite and configure it to work with the compiler. Okay, so we're done with that. So let's now open up CodeLite and configure it to work with the compiler.